this video, we'll show you how you can customize the different buttons and messages for your form, as well as any notifications that are sent out with regards to your form. We're back in our leave request, which we have previously built out with all of these fields, and we're going to now take a look at the messaging tab. So the first thing that you'll see here is that you have an option to provide a description for your form. This is something that will let your staff know exactly what this form is all about and why and when they would fill it out. This will show up both in the form's overview page for our leave request, but also on any page where we are embedding that leave request form throughout the intranet. Next up, you can see that the default buttons that are used for forms across ThoughtFarmer can be customized as well, depending on the form that you are filling out. So in this case, I'm going to customize it to say Start Leave Request and Submit Leave Request. If you are using ThoughtFarmer with multiple languages, note that for each of these options here where I'm entering text, you can set up different text for each of the languages that you are using throughout your intranet, if that is something that you want to do. When we scroll a bit further down, you'll see that there are different messages that are going to be shown on your form depending on what happens with it. So after a user submits the form, you can see that, of course, the page will display a thank you title as well as a little message thanking that person for their submission. This is a very default cookie cutter text, but we can, of course, customize that as well and make sure that it's relevant for our organization and the people that manage this form. Going to click on Save. And you can do that for any of these other messages as well. This is a message people will see when they are following a link to the form, but they don't have the permission to see or submit. And the last one here is a message that will be shown when the form is closed and is no longer open to submissions. So that is everything that we can customize here within the user interface for this form. Next up, we're going to look a little bit at the notifications that are sent out when different actions are happening on that form. So for that, we're going to go into our notifications tab. When somebody submits a form, they're going to be notified that that form is now under submission. Now, there will be a number of notifications that are sent out through the ThoughtFarmer app in the web browser, but as a form manager, you can also choose to send out an email confirmation when different activities happen on the form. Sometimes it just provides that extra push for people to come and check out the forms they have in their queue on the intranet if they get an email confirmation as well. So there's different notifications. The first one, of course, goes out to the submitter of the form, right? So if we check this checkbox here, this is going to ensure that that person will also receive an email confirmation. The subject of that email can be customized. The name of the intranet, in this case PCU, will always be the start of that subject line. And by default, it's going to show you the name of the form, and then it will just say entry submitted. You can also add additional information to that subject line by using the bracket key. So if I start typing the bracket opening key, you'll see that there are a number of items that I can add to that subject by default. So maybe I'll say date submitted in this case. The message that we see here, this is what is going to be in the email notification itself, in this case sent out to the submitter. And of course, I can again customize that message based on how our organization works and the actions that are going to be happening with my specific form on this specific organization. So I've just customized that message. And remember, again, if you are using different languages on ThoughtFarmer, you can set different messages up in those languages using this drop down here. I'm going to click on Save. And then you'll see here, that is just a confirmation email that goes out to the submitter. But then you can also see that there's other items here as well. For example, we're going to notify the submitter when the form has completed, meaning that it has gone to its final state. Again, you can see here there will be an in-app alert, and as well the email will be sent. We can check any of those off. It just depends on the notifications that you prefer. And again, you can customize the subject line and the actual message in the email as well. Form reviewers, of course, will always get notifications as well. It's kind of set up kind of similarly to what we just saw for the submitter. When you do review the entry submitted notification, you can choose again whether only an in-app alert or an email is going to be sent out. But you can also choose whether you want to send out that notification only to the initial reviewer, meaning the first person who's going to have to take action on the form, or if you want it to go to all reviewers, so every person involved in the workflow of that specific form. One option that you have here as well is you can choose to include all of the form entry data in the email message, meaning that the email will not just be a little message to go and check it out. It'll actually have, in this case, the name of the person who's requesting the leave, their dates, the reason for their leave, and so on. It sometimes makes it a little easier. Lastly, I'll just focus on this, and this is if you have set a time limit in your form, meaning you give reviewers a specific amount of time to review an entry, then they will also be getting a notification when their entry is overdue. When they have now passed 3 days, they still haven't reviewed this leave request. Again, you can customize whether that will happen just in the app or with an email on top. And you can also customize any of that messaging here. So as you can see, there's a lot of flexibility in terms of how you want to set up notifications for a form for the different people involved, both the submitter as well as any of the reviewers. And you can really tailor that message and make sure that it's relevant to that specific form and that scenario. And you can manage all of that here in the notifications tab. Note that at any point in time when you save these settings, you can always come back in the future and change any of the notifications as needed. I hope this has been helpful. Make sure to check out our other FormFlow videos so that you can see how to build the form and how to set up the workflow and the permissions.